and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Jake Gardiner, a Senior Enterprise Account Director at Odigo. Jake, it's great to have you join us today. How are you doing?
Hi, Charlie. Vice versa. Great to be here.
Yeah, and I'm very excited for today's conversation, where we're going to be talking about the various use cases for natural language processing in the contact center. And we've picked out 6 beforehand for us to rattle through. And I think maybe the best one to start with is monitoring customer intent and using NLP for that. Could you maybe tell me a little bit about how NLP enables a contact center to discover the reasons why customers call them?
Yeah, certainly. So I think in layman's terms, NLP effectively enables humans to speak to a machine, or in this case, an NLP-enabled IVR, which then captures the audio. In real time, the NLP engine will then try to parse and transcribe the text words to decipher the underlying meaning. So essentially, and initially, NLP should be enabled to collect the reason for a customer's call today. And then in a very short period as an organization, circa 2 weeks, you'll have a really great, rich data set that sheds a light on the true reason behind your customer's interaction.
Mm. Yeah, and I think a particular reason actually why that's so powerful kind of leads us to our next use case, and that is informing self-service implementations. Could you maybe tell me a little bit about how NLP enables supports the implementation of self-service?
Yeah, I certainly can, Charlie. So once you have that rich data set that I've spoken about, you can start to map out the top 5 reasons as to why customers are contacting you. These in turn can inform the implementation of different self-service journeys. Equally, there may be reasons behind customers' interaction that is attributed to different parts of your organization. So, for example, I've seen cases where there's been a surge of customer calls relating to confusing information on the website about specific online products or services. So this is an example of something that can be rectified without the need for self-service. But once you have that rich data set, you can start to map out the top 5 reasons and implement those journeys accordingly.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think with that, with all that intent data, it's quite fascinating, isn't it? Because you can, as you say, you can apply self-service AI, but you can also fix upstream problems as well. And maybe that's the first step for applying that self-service, as you rightly kind of alluded to. So I think, yeah, it's particularly powerful in that sense. And then for those contact reasons, which maybe it's impossible to self-serve them completely. NLP can support agents in battling those contacts themselves with our next use case of NLP, which is Agent Assist. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about what Agent Assist is and kind of the role NLP plays within it?
Yeah, certainly. So if you think about Agent Assist today, in most cases, Agent Assist is either a knowledge base that triggers off the back of certain interaction or certain customer journeys, certain IVR options that have been selected in the traditional sense. Equally, Agent Assist could be as simple as a CRM screen pop that's being generated based on some information that's coming in from the IVR to the platform, and that's triggering a back-end action. When we talk about Agent Assist from a natural language processing perspective, we're talking about that reason for the customer's call. So what their utterance in effect that you've collected at the start of the IVR journey, and that's being dynamically delivered to the agent's user interface. So with that information, the agent can be on the front foot. No longer is the agent having to say, "Hello, Charlie, how can I help you today?" The reason for your interaction, for your call, is being delivered to my screen before the call even gets delivered to me. And that enables agents to be on the front foot, proactive, and actually deal with, in most cases, more emotive inquiries in a better equipped fashion.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's great in terms of also you mentioned a bit about the IVR there, and I'm trying to link that point into our next use case as well in my mind, and that is improving customer routing.
Sure.
So yeah, could you maybe also tell me a little bit about that one and how NLP can help a contact center take its routing strategy to the next level?
Yeah, so if you, and I think it goes back to thinking about traditionally how is routing managed in the contact center. So if you think about most IVRs that are established today, their DTMF options. So press 1 for X, press 2 for Y. That's an example of a programmatic customer journey. So there's nothing dynamic about that. You're not actually analyzing information that comes in and making routing decisions on the fly. If you think about the premise of natural language processing, the ability to actually decipher meaning from certain either strings of text or keywords, that enables you to suddenly make a lot more eloquent routing decisions. So, for example, if the language that I'm using is quite emotive in nature, if it implies that perhaps I'm frustrated, you can then make a routing decision in our case, in our routing platform to actually route that interaction to an agent best equipped to deal with that specific interaction type. And, in a real simple way, with a programmatic IVR, you're limited to a certain number of options, and those options are traditionally it's what's what's going to be a realistic enough customer journey that a customer will actually want to go through the IVR in the first place, and that's typically maybe 5 options. With NLP, the options are limitless. You're opening that kind of funnel at the top, getting all those interactions that come in, understanding the intent behind them, and then making individual dynamic routing decisions for each interaction. That's the power of NLP, and that's how as an organization you're gonna step up your customer routing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that was a really fascinating example of a routing strategy that you gave there of a customer maybe not being so happy, frustrated, and passing them through to an agent who's maybe more skilled in empathy, for example.
Yeah.
So that shows us how NLP helps to monitor customer sentiment too. And that brings us to our next use case of measuring customer emotion and sentiment. Could you maybe tell us how NLP is able to do that and kind of why it can also be so beneficial in beyond routing as well?
Yeah, so when you think about again certain keywords that attribute emotion, you're going to have a bank of those words that, for example, potentially mean that customer is angry, for example, disappointed with the service that they've got. Then it's about actually analyzing certain strings of text, certain combinations of different words that may attribute meaning, and then you're able to actually give that a ranking. So traditionally it's maybe from 1 to 5, 5 being a very positive interaction, and you may choose to handle that differently. 1 could signify a negative interaction and an interaction that needs to be dealt with quickly by agents. The balancing act most organizations will have is how do you create a service that's fair? So clearly customers are smart. They might cotton on to that. They may choose to use different keywords to actually influence how quickly they're serviced by the contact center. So as with NLP, as with any project, really, it's iterative. So you've got to be able to actually analyze the data as it comes in and make strategically driven decisions on the fly. So if you start identifying that kind of habit, you need to be able to implement fixes.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We hear a lot about sentiment analysis in the contact center, and to kind of hear how it's actually implemented like that is it's quite fascinating.
Mm.
Um, but now maybe moving on to our final use case of NLP, and that is driving personalization throughout customer service and experience. How does NLP allow a contact center to give customers that extra level of personalized service?
Okay, yeah. So natural language processing combined with identification and verification, which is in effect, you've probably gone through the journey yourself at some stage, Charlie, when you phone into a company and you may give your account number, you may give your postcode, and that's going to unlock another layer of possible journeys that you could go through as a customer, right? So, for example, in the sense of banking, you might be able to then check the balance in one of your bank accounts. So when you combine natural language processing, which again is that targeted intelligent routing based on keywords, you're able to glean a lot more in terms of the data that you're provided as an organization. That in turn will enable you to tailor specific customer journeys that may attribute to certain services or products that you offer. So when you combine that with identification and verification, which is made a lot easier by NLP because suddenly you can just articulate certain bits of information as opposed to actually hashing it in on your keypad, you can in effect deliver personalized journeys. So actually, hello, Mr. Gardiner, what would you like to do today? Here's an example service that we think might be applicable to you in the context of banking, or actually you may already have an idea as to what I'd like to achieve today in terms of self-service. That's how you deliver personalization. On the agent piece, because you know why I'm calling, and actually I might have already done or performed identification or verification in the IVR, you can start greeting that customer personally. So something simple as "Hi, Mr. Gardner" in my case is a step change in customer experience, and that will have a positive impact to things like customer CSAT scores. So
Mm. Yeah, it's also, you mentioned this great impact on customer satisfaction scores, also on agent scores, as they have that information up
yes,
front that you were mentioning too. And then I guess there's also big business outcomes in the sense of, if the agent knows why a customer is calling, and they have all that data at their fingertips, that is quite a significant reduction in handle time. And I imagine you've seen that in your projects too, but you're not doing it in a way that's kind of forcing agents to pressuring them on handling time too. So there's clear customer, agent, and business wins there.
mm,
So it's great to see, and I think that's a common theme almost throughout the 6 use cases that we've discussed today. But I guess it leads to one final question, and that is, now we know all the potential that NLP has, how can
mm.
we start to implement it in the contact center and gain these benefits?
And I think you've left the most important question to last. So it's a good point. How do you implement this service? Well, I think we need to break that narrative that it's specific only to the contact center.
Mm.
Natural language processing touches every facet of an organization. So in successful implementations of NLP, the customer or the organization will typically have a working steerco group with different stakeholders from different parts of the organization. That will be up to C-suite, so making executive decisions on different journeys that you may wish to implement at pace, because the information, remember, is coming in at pace, so you can make really fluid, agile decisions as an organization. But then equally, if you think about that website example I spoke about earlier, you're going to have you need to have the correct representation from a website perspective, from a digital marketing perspective, to make these changes on the fly to enhance your customer experience engine over time. So you need to have that working group. There needs to be some momentum behind it, and there needs to be regular cadence as well, because it is an iterative project. You don't just implement NLP and then leave it at that. You need to be working on this over time to actually maximize the return on investment you get as an organization.
Absolutely, and I think the point that you made there as well, that this is, very much collaborative. It's not just contact center. This is about organizational
Mm,
collaboration around customer journeys, and how that can break pain points that then influence the contact center. So the contact center can almost spread a lot of these insights, but then gain from that in the end. So yeah, I think it's been a really fascinating conversation today, Jake. So thank you very much for joining me.
of course, I've enjoyed it. Thanks for your time, Charlie.
Excellent. And also, thanks to everybody for watching. Bye for now.